Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Spoiler Sunday video. So this is the time of the week where I take a look at all of the spoilers that happened this past week and, well, talk about them. So we finally know what all of EX02 or Digital Hazard is doing, and I'm really excited with the set because I think it's actually going to be a pretty fun and interesting set. The big difference between this set and the previous supplementary set, which was EX01 Classic Collection, is the fact that, well, this is actually trying to be a full set, just a little bit smaller and a little bit more condensed, sticking more on theme than previous Digimon sets before. So the Classic Collection was a set that's designed more to update and iterate on some current and existing decks, giving them some new tools to try to keep them relevant, and, well, this isn't really doing that because, like I said, it's trying to be its own thing, and it's trying to mimic and copy a full line set, just being a little bit smaller. So, without further ado, on to the spoilers. So first up, we have Gran Locomon. So Gran Locomon is a pretty decent Digimon for being just a common level 6 black Digimon. Stats aren't anything to write home about, but this card has two abilities. So the first ability is an ability that triggers during your turn, where this Digimon can't attack the opponent's Digimon. So it could still attack into the opponent's security, and, well, this card is actually a pretty decent card to want to aggress or defend with, depending on how you build your deck, because, well, this is going to be a machine Digimon and interacts with machines and cyborgs. So it has the very powerful secondary ability where during all turns, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for each cyborg or machine in your trash. So this is really, really powerful because, well, the longer the game goes, the more cards you'll have in your trash, and the stronger this card will become, potentially making it for a very powerful card to either A, aggress with because of its high levels of DP, ensuring it has a high success rate attacking into the opponent's security, or B, hold it back and use it as a blocker, so that way you could, well, wall out to the opponent's Digimon and try to prevent them from aggressing onto you. So this is just a very powerful Digimon to be playing around with for a common, with lots of different fun and unique ways to build it thanks to all of the machine and cyborg based synergies that we already have in the game. Next, we have a new version of Gorillamon. So this new version of Gorillamon is going to be playing around with separating your inheritable sources into new Digimon. So this has a powerful on-play ability where you get to play one level 3 Digimon from one of your blue Digimon's inheritable sources for free as a separate Digimon, and, well, that's just pretty good because we could build this stack where we could basically just Digivolve once and then start cascading into spawning lots of Digimon. So this is just another really powerful Digimon to line up with that type of play, and even at worst, without just that type of synergy, just hard playing this to essentially spawn another Digimon isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, depending on the field and what your stacks are looking like. So this is going to be a pretty interesting Digimon to be playing around with for that style of deck, and that style of deck has been slowly getting some more support here and there. So I think with this card, you could iterate on that type of gameplay style to just make a really interesting deck that could swarm the board relatively quickly and relatively easily. Next up, we have a new version of Dobermon. So this new version of Dobermon is actually looking to be pretty good and can fit into a lot of different purple decks because of its abilities. So the first ability that it has, which is a passive ability native to it, is an ability where you get to basically reduce its play cost by 2 if you have an Alice McCoy on the field. So being able to play a level 4 for 3 is relatively efficient, especially since we could use this card in multiple different decks because of its secondary ability, where it's an on-delete ability where you get to self-mill the top 3 cards of your deck and then return one purple Digimon or one purple Tamer card from your trash back into your hand. So this could go into just a variety of different decks depending on what you're trying to use this card for. So you could use this card in like a purple hybrids deck to try to retrieve your Tamers, or you could use this in like a 7 Demon Lords deck to try to mill some cards and pull back a Demon Lord. So there's just lots of different things that you could do with this card, making it a very flexible and versatile purple card to be using, especially in combination with Alice. And speaking of Alice, next we have Alice McCoy. So Alice McCoy is a purple Tamer, no shocker there considering its interaction with Dobermon, and this is a pretty efficient Tamer to be playing with because she has a play cost of 2. And then this card is just another really good card that could fit into a lot of different purple decks because of how good the ability is. So what her ability is doing native to her is that she has an ability that triggers during your turn once per turn when your level 5 Digimon would digivolve into a level 6 Digimon. By deleting one of your Digimon, you could reduce the Digivolution cost of that card by 3. So this is interacting with that self-sacrificing synergy to just, well, climb your stages that much more efficiently with, and with purple having lots of grave-based synergies or trash-based synergies and on delete-based synergies, there's just a lot of different things that you could do to make various different megas a lot more efficient than they've ever been, making for some really interesting power or combo plays possible. So I really think that this card paired up with Doberman is going to be a really versatile and flexible little combo package that could fit into a lot of different purple builds. Next up, we have a new version of Impmon. So it's no shocker that we were going to see an Impmon in the set, and oh boy, this Impmon actually looks really, really powerful. So what this Impmon is doing is it has 2 abilities native to it. So one is more of a passive ability, and the other ability is a more active ability when you play the card. So what its passive ability is doing is when this card is discarded by card effects, except for another Impmon from your deck, then you get to discard the top 3 cards of your deck. So basically, when you mill this card with any other card but this type of a card, then you're going to be milling even more, turbo milling your deck, so that way you could try to set up your trash as quickly and efficiently as you possibly can, which Impmon and 7 Great Demon Lords really wants to do, just to try to set up its trash count to be at 10 to maximize on their abilities and make them online as quickly as you possibly can. And then this card has a really good on-play ability, acting as a decent digger, where you get to reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, then add 1 Digimon with Beelzemon in its name, and add 1 Ai and Mikoto from among them into your hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So this is just digging out your Beelzemons, and it's digging out Impmon's Tamers, so that way you could try to, well, use them as efficiently with the deck as best as you possibly can. And then on top of all of that, it even has a nice inheritable ability, where during your turn, when this Digimon has Beelzemon in its name, then this Digimon gets plus 3000 DP, making your Beelzemons even stronger than they normally would be, which is really important considering purple doesn't necessarily have the best ways of DP boosting their Digimon, so having this as a really solid inheritable to, well, make your Beelzemons that much more threatening is always a good thing. And speaking of Beelzemon, next we have a brand new version of Beelzemon. So this Beelzemon is a SR in the set, and for a level 6 Digimon, its stats are pretty average, but its abilities are actually pretty decent. So this card has the ability where when this card is trashed from your deck, then you get to play 1 Impmon from your trash for free. So that's just really powerful considering, well, we have lots of different Impmons that we could actually interact with this card. So you could use the BT06 Impmon to try to discard a card and add a 7 Great Demon Lord back from your trash into your hand, so you could then grab this card back, or you could use it to just continuously try to mill yourself because of the BT02 Impmon with its on-delete ability, or you could even use it with the new Impmon to try to get its on-play ability to help dig out your cards. So there's already lots of different Impmons that we could use with this ability, and then on top of that, it also has another ability where it has the condition of when digivolving and when attacking, not limited to once per turn. You get to trash 2 cards from the top of your deck, then you get to delete one of the opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon, and then for every 10 cards in your trash, you get to add 1 to the maximum level of the Digimon that would be affected by this ability. So the more cards you have in your trash, the stronger the removal type of ability becomes, and it's already a pretty decent removal type of ability on base, and it doesn't necessarily require a particular trash count, unlike some of the other Demon Lords, but the fact that you could recursively utilize this ability just makes this card a very strong card to be playing around with. The one thing you actually do have to know is you do have to actually digivolve all the way up into this, and it doesn't have a warp ability like the previous Beelzemon, but it's still just a very powerful card to be playing around with nonetheless for an Impmon or Beelzemon based deck. Next, we have a new Yamon. So this is, well, the purple Digitama for the set, and this Yamon is doing something very similar to the old Yamon. So this Yamon, being a Digitama, means it has an inheritable ability where during your turn, while you have 10 or more cards in your trash, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP. So this is basically just double of what the old Yamon was doing, where the old Yamon was if you have 5 cards in your trash, then it's plus 1000 DP. So the more DP you have, the stronger your Digimon can become. Even though the old Yamon is a little bit easier to use, sometimes you don't necessarily care and you just want to try to make your Digimon as powerful as you possibly can, and considering purple has had a hard time utilizing their DP in the past, this is just a pretty good card to try to increase your Digimon's DP. Next up, we have Beelzemon Blast Mode. So Blast Mode is making an appearance in the set, and this is actually a level 7 purple Digimon. So its stats are basically comparable to Omnimon. It evos for 6 off of purple, and it has 15,000 DP with a play cost of 15. So it's just a very strong Digimon on base with its stats, and on top of that, it has a slew of different abilities to make this card really, really strong. So it has a passive ability where when this card is trashed from your deck, then you get to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So literally just the act of milling this card means that you can delete some of the opponent's Digimon, adding some extra punch to the fact that normally trashing cards randomly out of your deck isn't as good as drawing and discarding, so they definitely want to start rewarding you for self-milling, and this is a really good card to self-mill, especially since we have multiple ways to add this card back into our hand. And then on top of that, it has a when digivolving ability where you get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the highest level, so it's just a very strong removal ability, allowing you to, well, just clear almost anything you want that's going to be a potential threat to you. So that's just, well, very classic and very stereotypical of a level 7, having a very solid removal ability to be utilizing. And then its last ability adds some extra punch for what this card could be doing, which purple definitely needs, because purple doesn't necessarily have the best ways of aggressing outside of trying to swarm the field or utilizing some very specific cards. So what this card is doing as its third ability, it triggers during your turn, where for every 10 cards in your trash, this Digimon gains security attack +1. So the more cards you have in your trash, the stronger this card will be able to punch and aggress onto the opponent's security. Couple that with any DP boosts or various other abilities, and this card can be an absolute nightmare for the opponent to deal with. Next, we got his option card, which is going to be Corona Blaster. So Corona Blaster is a 4-cost purple option card, and it has the nice ability where when this card is trashed from your deck, then you get to gain 1 memory. So again, it's trying to double down and reward you for the act of self-milling because it is a little bit more random. Sometimes this ability could be really good, sometimes it could not really matter, but regardless, it's just a very solid card to be using, especially since its main ability actually is pretty decent with the ability to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. Then for every 10 cards in your trash, you get to add 1 to the maximum level of Digimon you could use with this effect, where the more cards you have in your trash, the stronger of a removal card this card becomes, and with all of the self-milling that we already could be playing around with, this is going to be a very powerful card to be using, especially since it has the security ability where you get to activate its main effect, so it's also a really solid security effect to be utilizing, especially in the mid to late stages of the game. And then to round out the Impmon package, we have I in Makoto. So I in Makoto is a really solid tamer to be using for the Impmon-based deck because we don't necessarily have to rely on Matt anymore as our only memory-fixing tamer. So that's really good, where this is just going to be acting as a memory-fixing tamer for purple. So we finally got our second one, which is really good because at any time we're less than 3 memory, this type of a card will always hard set us to 3, and most of the time you're going to be basing your plays off of having 3 memory. And then what this card is doing is it's trying to be, well, a more Beelzemon focused card, where it has the ability where during your turn, when one of your Digimon attacks, you get to suspend this tamer to trash the top card of your deck, and then if the Digimon attacking is a Beelzemon, then that Digimon can digivolve into a Beelzemon Blast Mode from your trash by paying 3 for its Digivolution cost. So this is just a really easy way to try to make sure that your Blast Mode is in the trash, then Digivolve up into a Beelzemon, swing right away, and then try to Digivolve your Beelzemon into Blast Mode using this card rather than just, well, Digivolving normally because that's overrated. So this is already just a pretty solid tamer to be using, more specifically for the Beelzemon-based deck, but the fact that purple finally has a secondary memory-fixing tamer is always welcome. Next up, we have a new version of Andromon. So this Andromon isn't really doing anything too spicy or special. It has the blocker ability native to him. He actually could attack it if you really wanted him to, with no downside to attacking, but he has a really nice ability that happens during the opponent's turn, where all of your Digimon with blocker gain plus 2000 DP, making it so you would just want to sit around on this card, and during the opponent's turn, he's going to be 8000 DP, and that could form a pretty decent wall against some of the opponent's mid to low level Digimon. And then this card also interacts with any of your other blockers, making all of your blockers even stronger than they normally would be, so you could build a really powerful and defensive wall, especially since Craniamon is still going to be a pretty solid card, because having some form of protection is better than having no forms of protection, and the fact that this paired up with Craniamon means that Craniamon will be able to protect him, so it's going to be making it very hard for the opponent to want to aggress, especially if you also couple this with Mechanorimon and various other blockers that you could be playing around with. So I think in a blocker-based deck, this is going to be a very strong card to be thinking about utilizing. Next up, we have some new D-Reapers. So we have ADR04 Bubbles. So Bubbles here is a pretty interesting and solid Digimon to be using. So it does have a security ability and as a security Digimon, and its security ability states that you get to put one of your ADR02 searchers from your hand to the bottom of one of the Digivolution sources on your Mother D-Reaper. So this is just an easy card to try to fill up your Mother D-Reaper's inheritables as quickly as you possibly can. So that way you could try to make all of your D-Reapers as efficient as you possibly can, because it seems like the whole idea is just trying to shove inheritable sources into your Mother D-Reaper, so that way you can make it your cards as efficient to play as you humanly possibly can. And then on top of that, this card has an on-play ability. So when you hard play it from your hand, you get to place one of your ADR02 searchers from your hand to the bottom of your Mother D-Reaper's inheritable sources. So this card is just solely focused on trying to shove searchers into the inheritable sources of your Mother D-Reapers, which is, again, what the deck is trying to do, so that way you could utilize your more powerful D-Reapers as efficiently and quickly as you possibly can. So having a turbo card to speed up that strategy is just really, really good. Next up, we have ADR07 Pallades Head. So Pallades Head is a pretty interesting D-Reaper to be playing around with. So it has the main ability where when you have a Mother D-Reaper on your field, you get to suspend this Digimon and delete one of the opponent's Digimon with DP equal to or less than this Digimon's DP. So it's just a really solid way to try to act as some low-level Digimon removal, and if you have any ways to increase this Digimon's DP, then it increases the amount of Digimon and potential targets that you could possibly use, so it's just a very solid removal card for the D-Reaper deck to be playing around with. Next up, we have ADR06 Horn Striker. So ADR06 Horn Striker is, well, a very average card to be playing around with, but it's still a very powerful card for the D-Reaper deck because of, well, how the D-Reapers are trying to be played. So the fact that we want to try to use our Mother D-Reaper to reduce its play cost to make this card efficient to play is really, really good, because this card has the nice ability where during your turn, while you have a Mother D-Reaper in your battle area, then this Digimon gains the Rush ability. So the fact that we have a card to just slam onto the field that we can reduce its play cost and make it cheaper, and then start swinging right away with, just makes it a very powerful card to try to put extra pressure onto the opponent. And then the last D-Reaper that we were missing is going to be ADR05 Creephands. So Creephands is a pretty solid Digimon. It's another very basic ability, but it's one that's kind of needed for the style of deck. So it has the very powerful ability where during the opponent's turn, while you have a Mother D-Reaper in your battle area, then this Digimon gains the blocker ability, and that's going to make it act as the deck's dedicated blocker. Next up, we have a new option card in the form of Blue Card. So this is another white option card, meaning this is going to be actually a pretty strong card. It has a play cost of 3, and it has the ability where if you have a Tamer in play, then you could use this card ignoring its color requirements. So that kind of just makes sense, considering in the anime, the blue card was what was used to digivolve the Tamer's Digimon, and this card is fitting on theme with the anime counterpart. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability where you get to reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and then one of your Digimon may digivolve into a Digimon card other than a white Digimon from among them without paying its Digivolution cost. Then if you didn't do that, then you get to add one Digimon card from among them into your hand and place the rest onto the bottom in any order. So this is just a really cool and different way on trying to digivolve your Digimon. You are still technically paying for its evolution cost by, well, using this card. So it's just a fun and easy way to try to not only just draw some cards for some consistency, but to potentially digivolve into the Digimon you want or need based on what your deck is trying to do. And I think that's going to be a really spicy and interesting card to be utilizing, especially if the opponent isn't prepared for it. And then on top of that, it has the security ability where you get to play one Tamer card from your hand for free. So it even has the ability to try to help play your Tamers more efficiently, which is never a bad thing considering there's just a lot of really good Tamers in the game that multiple different decks wants to try to use and capitalize on. And sometimes playing your Tamers is going to be a little bit harder to do, so most of the time they're going to sit in their hand until you have a good opportunity to play it. And, well, this card is presenting you with a really good opportunity to play your Tamers. So I think this is going to be a pretty decent card to be using for virtually any deck. And then the last card that we got revealed is going to be the other secret rare of the set, and it's going to be Gallantmon Crimson Mode. So yes, Gallantmon Crimson Mode is finally making his appearance, and this card is, well, another pretty solid level 7 red Digimon to be using. So it does digivolve for 6, and it does have 15,000 DP, so its stats are very comparable to Beelzemon that we just saw with his blast mode, and this card's 2 abilities are, well, not necessarily new, but they're still really good. So it has a when digivolving ability where you get to delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP. So it's basically an Iron Fisted Onslaught when you digivolve into it, which is never a bad thing because, again, removal is always good. And if you could try to mitigate and control the opponent's field, then that limits some of their actions, especially if that's a threat that you're trying to get rid of. And then on top of that, this card also has a really good when attacking ability, which we saw before all the way back in EX02 on the Gallantmon from that set, where we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, and the number of cards that we could trash is increased by 1 for every 10 cards in the opponent's trash. So the more you can control the field, or the more cards the opponent has in their trash, the more this card is just going to straight up sack up their cards in their security and get rid of them before even checking a single security, making for a very powerful card to be utilizing. So that's all I have in terms of spoilers with the EX02 Digital Hazard set, and like I said, I think this set is going to be a pretty interesting and fun set to be playing around with because the new cards that they're adding into the card pool can spawn some new and exciting decks on top of updating and iterating some current and existing decks that really weren't seeing a whole lot of play, like Terriermon and Renamon. So I think we are going to be having lots of fun trying to figure out new ways to play not only just the old cards that we currently have, but new cards that we're going to be getting. So I'm really excited to see what's going to come out of the set, and I hope the supplementary sets act a little bit more like this rather than Classic Collection, considering I actually think these cards are going to have more of a meta impact, rather than just add a couple of cards here and there to just have a minor impact on the overall meta. Considering, looking back at Classic Collection, the only new real addition that Classic Collection was adding in terms of new decks was the Machinedramon deck, and outside of that, it was just a couple of updates here and there to the current top decks already. So I think a set like this is going to be a step in the right direction, where it's more thematic, more focused, and, well, looks more interesting, more fun, and has a greater impact on the game as a whole. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.